Maybe this will just be the low episode. Yeah, maybe this will just be the episode where I'm very low to the ground. But, hey people, welcome back to the sweat, or to the ocean of sweat that I'm about to do sitting out here like this. It was just another beautiful day, and I was like, you know what? I can go on a little rant. And I wanted to record, so. But yeah, this episode I'm probably just going to talk about TV shows and media a lot. Because I got into an interesting conversation with my friend last night about like some of the Star Wars shows and everything, and how I may be misquoting him, but he thinks that Ahsoka was better than Andor. And I was like, Star Wars should just die. You know, like it's been dead. And the reason why I say this is because Disney as a franchise bleeding into Star Wars absolutely destroyed it. Completely destroyed it. The sequels were awful. The prequels were actually pretty good, but the sequels were awful. And then all these kind of spin-off shows, like you can have some that are good shows but aren't good shows. And what I mean that is like the characters and their motives. It's like they're not necessarily great people. I mean, like take take Breaking Bad. Like Walter White is the main protagonist, and you should kind of want to, or like you should want him to succeed, but he ultimately becomes the villain at the end of the whole thing. But he's the main character, and it's like that was a good show because they actually stuck to the. There was a plane or helicopter flying over. Yep, it's up there. I probably should have worn a hat, but I took a shower. But all that work's probably gonna go to waste because I'm gonna sit out here and sweat it all off. But yeah, no, like when it came to let's use Andor, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka. Obi-Wan, let's start with that. Obi-Wan is a good bad show in the sense that it's fun to watch, but is it written well? Hell no. Not at all. It's not written well at all. Like, we've all seen the edits of Princess Leia, like, running from the guys, and somehow, like, a little branch is stopping one of them. And then it's like Obi-Wan was covering her in a trench coat in the sea that was clone troopers or stormtroopers. And they couldn't notice that. And then it's like, oh, no, we're surrounded. Let's just run through all of these shots and somehow make it out. What were the stakes? And then it's like, if you think about Ahsoka, and you correct me if I'm wrong about this, but at the end of the Rebels, Ezra takes him and General Thrawn away in order to save the galaxy, because Thrawn wasn't going to stop at anything. And so, if Thrawn is such a big threat, why is the Council against Sabine so like adamant about it being a fairy tale and that there's no way that they're alive, or like, and all that stuff? Wouldn't they want to take any possible measure to make sure he doesn't come back, even at the small chance he is alive? Wouldn't that be the logical point? And it's like, yeah, you got to get like the story going and all that stuff, but it's like you could have an actual story going with it and have Ahsoka end the way that it did with legitimate reasons. Like, if that was Ezra's plan at the end of the Rebels, wouldn't like he want them to stay away? Like when they show up, Sabine's like, "Hey, what's up?" And Ezra's like, "Yo, what are you doing here? Like, how are you doing?" When really, shouldn't he be like, "You're not supposed to be here. Like, you just opened a possibility to have the greatest threat come back." Like, what? And then it's just like, Sabine, you're supposed to be rooting for her, but like, how can you? She's putting her own selfish wants and needs above everyone else in order to get her friend back while putting the galaxy at risk. So I mean like that, but see, when it comes to Andor though, I think Andor's really good because you actually see the main character learn to want to do what we actually watch the character develop, and we watch them learn and become a better person by the end of it. Because at the beginning, Andor never wanted to join the rebellion. He just wanted to live. That's pretty much all it was. And he didn't quite understand the full scope of how bad things were, which ultimately by the end of the show, he learns. He learns of how bad the Empire is, but that's not just how they do it though. They kind of split the show into two sections. The first section is basically like he gets a job and they're stealing from the Empire, but they don't really explain, or like he still doesn't fully understand. He's still doing it for the job and the money, while everyone else is kind of in it for like the rebellion. And so once the job is done, then he gets his thing. He goes to a beach paradise and he ends up getting arrested there. This isn't like this is now when he starts to realize how bad things are. He goes to the prison and then he realizes that the government, or like not the government, the Empire is just extending people's imprisonment times without telling them. So people think that they're in there for like they think that they're supposed to be in there for like 40 days when in fact they're just going to keep resetting the clock until they're in there for 5 years or until they die. And that's when Andor gets the sense of how bad things really are. Oh, is my head off screen? Yes, it is. But that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, the stakes. There are no stakes. Yeah, he actually had characters die in that show, and people were realizing how bad the Empire was. Whereas in, like, Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, they're kind of just shying away from the fact that these are terrible people. These are terrible organizations and terrible things. And they're just kind of letting things happen, and there's no actual driving motion in it. That's what I mean by it's a good and bad show. Like, sure, you can watch these shows and have fun and everything and say that they're good. But then you got, like, people who are like me that actually want to, like, have a good story and root for the main character. And Disney isn't giving, like, the expectation and what we're willing to accept, like the standards are so low when it comes to movies and TV shows now from the general audience that corporations are like, shit, we could just copy and paste this. And it's not fixing the issue. Like, the answer isn't more shows. The answer is less shows, higher quality. And it's like the entire entertainment industry has completely forgotten about that. And everyone's getting ahead of themselves and, like, all that craziness. See, one thing that I will say, though, that, like, I am acknowledging a lot more of is anime. And I used to be a very avid, like, anime, like, hater. And then it wasn't until I had a really good friend. He introduced me to Attack on Titan. And that's, like, the first anime that I watched, which is stupid because it sets the bar so high. But, yeah, I watched all of Attack on Titan. And I just fell in love. I fell in love with it, and then I started watching like Cowboy Bebop, which is amazing. Evangelion, but not the movie. I do not like the movie. It ruined the entire show for me and the entire story for me. I hated it, but the show was actually pretty cool. The whole idea of it. I'm currently watching Dandadan, and I just watched the 4th episode. It's a really funny show. It's funny. It's fun. No, there is one thing I will say about anime, though, is that I know there's, like, the Japanese culture where it's, like, the age of consent is lower than America's and all that stuff, and it's, like, the characters are, like, 14, all that stuff, and, like, it makes me feel weird, but for a lot of it, you gotta power through in order to really like the show. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, Dandadan's pretty cool. I'm waiting for the next One Punch season to come out. I'm almost caught up on all of My Hero. I like My Hero. I'm not one of those weird psycho nerds, though, about it. It's a really cool concept. See, okay, so what I'm getting at is that anime and, like, the Japanese, like, television, it's so much more creative and outgoing than American culture that it's almost like a refresh. Like, going from American, like, shows and movies and all that stuff, and then hopping over to the Japanese culture, or like just other countries' cultures, because they also have really good stuff. Like RRR, I loved it. It was awesome. And like that's the first, like, I guess I remember hearing it described as a Tollywood, but it's more like a Bollywood movie. And I loved it. It was 3 hours long. I do recommend it. It's a really fun movie to watch. But yeah, like American culture, like every now and then we have some good gems, but it's like coming out of Japan, when it comes to the anime department and all that stuff, some of the shit is so wild, but like you're like, we're so deprived of good stories and like just crazy things happening that we're just like, yeah, anime is awesome. Like, it's really cool. It's really fun. It is fun to watch, and maybe I'll get shit for saying that I like anime, but like, yeah, dude, I like it. I like I don't know. It's a good refresh, and especially for someone who writes stories and comes up with that stuff, like, it's good. It's good. And like, okay, maybe an example of like an American thing that's like a shining sliver, or like a tiny like sliver of hope, is Arcane. I watched all of season 1 like a few months ago. It came out like 2021, but I watched it all a few months ago because I heard that season 2 was coming out in November of this year. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'll watch it. I got hooked immediately, and I'm hyped for season 2. That's also a good show that's on Netflix. I highly recommend Arcane. You don't need to know anything about League of Legends in order to watch it. Awesome show. Really nice. But yeah, just like entertainment has become such a weird thing, and it's like in American culture we're just constantly like remaking stuff. That tends to be the new trend now. Everyone just wants to remake an old Disney movie into live action, or a Broadway musical into a movie, like the new Wicked movie and all that stuff. And I planned this segue perfectly because I wanted to talk about the actresses like invalid crash out on social media. So I don't know the actress's name. I don't really keep up with it, but the co-star, besides Ariana Grande, the co-star who's playing the witch, they did a movie poster for it where it was like an homage to the original like musical Broadway poster, and like it's an homage, it's a sweet thing. And then like some fans came in and were like, it's not exact, we'll just tweak it and make it exact, which like there's no harm in that. Like there's no harm in doing any of that at all. If I were them, I'd be like, that's cool. Like they're like, people are passionate about the project and they're not necessarily poking fun at us. They're like tweaking the poster a little bit. But the actress decided to take it as like an offense and blew it way out of proportion, tried to throw so much hate, and then everyone's like, that is such an invalid crash out, what are you doing? I find it hilarious when you have famous people like have a really strong opinion that is obviously wrong, and it's like everyone can have like their own opinion. And I guess okay let me backtrack. Not all opinions are wrong. Actually, no, that's a weird thing to say too. Opinions can be wrong. There are some opinions out there where as a community we can all come together and be like, that's messed up. And I find it funny when you have famous people who feel like their opinion just trumps everyone, but then they actually get humbled. I find it amazing. It's so funny to watch. It's just like a god complex that a lot of famous people will get. Like they lose touch of who they are and where they come from and like what reality has in store, and then they feel like they can just start doing whatever they want, and then it's like, and then they do one thing and everyone just goes, you know what dude, like what the hell. And that's exactly what happened. She got extremely pissed off. They literally just like added more shading to the eyes, and yeah, damn, yeah, that sucks. I can talk about Ariana Grande, actually. Throw some flack her way. Not a lot of people would like. I can respect Ariana Grande as a talented individual and that she makes good music and that she's a great actor and everything. But then the whole thing happened with like her and her co-star on the set of Wicked, where like I think she like cheated on her husband with him and all that. And it like, dude, come on. Like, come on, man. I don't stand with that. And then you have a lot of people that are like, well, it's a mistake. It's a one-time thing. She's flawless. Oh my God. The same thing with Taylor Swift and all those but it's not just the women. It's a lot of the men too. Like you could have a lot of like Andrew Tate, like the Andrew Tate dick riders, when all that was going on. Like I can respect the idea of wanting to promote a positive image for men and women to live a good fit life and just be happy and not really care so much about what other people think if that inhibits your happiness. I can get behind that. But then like he started saying like some crazy shit and then most of society just went, okay, this guy's trolling, he's an asshole. And then you have all the like dick riders that they're like, no, he's right, you're just stupid, you're not an alpha male, you're a beta. No, you're a beta male. You're a beta. Where's your Bugatti? You don't smoke your Colombian cigars? Beta male. And like, man, the image that a lot of people can have, but like this happens to like people who try to promote a positive image as well, and that could go for like Cliff Henchfield. I think that's his name. I would love to meet Cliff sometimes. Anytime one of his lectures comes across my TikTok feed, I'll watch. And I'm not like a really big like Christian person. And I grew up in private school my whole life, doing nothing but Christian and all that stuff. And I've always just kind of had this like weird little doubt and all that stuff. And my thing is that I don't trust the church, but I trust Jesus. That's where my thing's coming from. So when it comes to like people who are in the faith and they're influencers like that, like George, crap, I forget their name, but yeah, whatever. But yeah, when it comes to the whole religion thing and all that stuff, like a lot of these influencers and society as people who don't fully understand Christianity and all that, and like the core meaning, this is probably like a better PSA for everyone. Don't trust the church. Trust Jesus. That's what we need to be, because everyone's like pinning everything against the church, and the church doesn't have a good name in the first place. Look at all the schisms that happened way back in the day before that broke apart the Orthodox. And like it's just even from day one, it's not like you got to trust Jesus. Don't trust I don't even read the Bible. I don't even trust everything that's in the Bible. Like, sure, though, I think some cool shit happens, and, like, Moses part of the Red Seas, and, like, the burning bush, and all that stuff. Like, yeah, I'll say that I believe it. I say that I will. But a lot of the other shit in it, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And it's written by multiple perspectives, and it's been translated over and over again throughout the years, and it's like, I'm not gonna trust that. I'm not gonna trust that. And then people can also just go into it and just pick apart what they think, or like what they like, what reminds them, or something like that. Just like good, like there's a lot of good advice that's in the Bible, and then you got the bad stuff. Just like everything, not everything's gonna be perfect. But yeah, I mean, like I had a nice discussion with my friend, and he was raised in an Orthodox church, so a lot more traditional and all that stuff. And I was telling him about how I've been having some issues and stuff, and we ended up talking about the Orthodox beliefs and all that stuff, and it sounds more like it's weird, but it sounds more logical than the Christian faith that I grew up with. And so I don't know. I think the core to what I was trying to say is, like, when it comes to all that like hot topic stuff, is do your own research and don't just go shooting fire. Like that's the issue with a bunch of stuff too, is that people don't know a lot about a subject, and then they'll like just start saying the most heinous shit about it. Like I don't know, especially with like all the whole thing with Gaza and Palestine and like Israel and all that stuff, and it's like, man, it's such a shame that it's happening in the first place. They've always had issues ever since the Israelites left to Egypt, and then the Palestinians came in. Like, they've always had issues, and there's no excuse for death. You can't, like, you can't do two wrongs to make a right, or you can't fight fire with fire, because it just makes more fire. It doesn't fix anything. And so it's like, it's all bad. It's all a bad thing. And for people who are like, whose side are you taking? Whose side are you taking? It's like, dude, why are we picking sides? Why can't we just somehow figure out how to do this? And it's like, you got a lot of people too that are like, it's just not going to be a thing. Like peace is not going to be an option, but it's like, it always could be. So I don't know. I'm not like the best person to talk about it. I did take a humanities class where I had to learn the entire history of that area. So I have some knowledge of it, but I don't want to be one of those political like influencers like Hassan or any of that. I think politics is a thing that destroys people and it destroys homes, but treated right and correctly, it could be a great thing, and we could actually solve some issues. And people don't know how to treat it correctly. People don't know how to have conversations and all that stuff. And people will ignore facts in order to fit their agenda. And it's like if you look at the candidates right now for Trump and Kamala, like or Kamala, like it's just very like no one's doing their research, and they're all like trusting just these campaign ads. Like, please, if you're my age, if you're 18, or even if you're older and you're like, oh, I want to stay away from politics, please do your damn research. It is awful. It's awful, the stuff that we see on TV, and we're just getting blatantly lied to. And the whole fact checking thing, like, what the hell is that? Like, that's not even doing anything anymore. And it's just, I don't know. It pisses me off when it's like no one's doing their research, and then everyone's like, well, they seem like the morally correct person, so I'm gonna vote for them. And then our country goes to shit. And like, or they're voting for the opposition because they just don't like the candidate, like the other candidate. Like sure, they may have great policies, but they just don't like him as a person. Like, I don't. It reminds me of this one advice I was given for writing stories. It's like, don't get it right, get it done. And it's like, for these people, none of them are gonna get it right, but you gotta count on the person who's gonna get it done. It makes me feel bad when I see this stuff, and I'll always try to promote like be respectful to each other, be nice to each other. I actually have a quote on my Instagram bio that I try my best to live by. It's Matthew 7:12, and it's essentially treat others how you wish to be treated. And that's like, I don't see why people just can't do that. I don't see why people just can't do that. And it's like, we're always going to have issues with each other, but we can at least offer respect. I don't know. It's weird watching the world be like this. It really is. 'Cause I just wish that I could get to a platform, to a point to where I have a big enough audience where I can actually do some good and promote some good. Like I'll make a promise right now, because I've been wanting to do this for years. If I were to ever start that clothing brand, it like the majority of it is going to be charity based. And that means that anytime a product is bought, 10% of it's going to go to a certain charity, and then different sets will go to different charities. The whole point is to be very inclusive and at least try to give something back in the first place. And like, hell, I'd love to host like you know how the Sidemen does their charity soccer match? I'd love to do a charity track meet or something like that. And I'd love to join on Thankmas every single year and actually do some good and do some stuff. And it's just, when people are like that and all they solely want to do is that, you'll have people who don't want that for you. And it's just like, their whole point is to try to evade that. Like here's one thing that I'd love to do as well. I actually thought about this. Let's say for like a council, for like a city, I start a fund and we go from person to person's house or building and just install solar panels and stuff, or maybe mini like reactor like batteries, because it's a lot safer now, and everyone's freaking out about radioactive stuff, and it's like it's a lot safer now, it's a lot smaller, we know what we're doing, we're not going to reenact the Chernobyl. And like, yeah, I mean, like either a bunch of solar panels or like some clean energy efficient way, all for free. And then the person who owns the building or the person who owns the house doesn't have to pay for energy. But no one's ever going to allow that because the electricity companies are like, no, we want money. And then it's like, if we're going to ever actually like capitalize on self-sufficient cars and all that, the gas and oil companies are going to go after the people. And so, yeah. You can always try, though. You can always try. It's never hopeless. You could always try. But, yeah, that's going to be my rant for today. It was just a nice, perfect blue sky. Well, I guess there's some clouds in the distance, but looking up, there's perfect blue skies. It's starting to get on a little bit of a darker note. But, hey, always try to promote good when it comes to the people you're interacting with, or the people you don't want to interact with. It's better to hope for good than the worst. It's just always is. So, all right. Well, send this to your friends. Send this to your grandma. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye bye.